This is the second of two videos talking about S and Z Sprang. I hope you watched the first video, which talked about working only S or full rows of only Z, and then we talked about one full row of S followed by one row of Z, and the resulting structure looks like this, interlacing. I now want to talk about using S and Z in the same row. You can create designs this way. We will make a diamond pattern. That's a design in S on a field of Z. This is the pattern I will be using. Starting at the top, the first row is a plait row. Note the 3 thread edge stitches on either side. I use dashes to indicate the Z slant and a slanty line to indicate S. Note there's a lavender slanty stitch in the middle of the first row. The second row is an overplait row, plain stitches all the way across. On the second row, I've indicated 2 S stitches. One is in a dark red, burgundy color, and the one on the left is pink. Yes, different colors indicate differences in this stitch. On a work of 28 threads, work some Z interlinking, and then begin on a plait row. Find the very middle stitch, uncross it, and recross it the other direction, that is, in S. Now notice there are 2 threads just to the right of this stitch that are at the back, and we have 2 threads at the front just to the right of this. The next row will be an overplait row. In plain Z, you keep your eye on those 2 threads that are together at the back. Here, you're using the first of those 2 as a stitch, and then the next stitch will be an S. Here is where special rules come into play. This is what I call a transition stitch, transitioning from Z to S. Work this stitch on the next 2 front threads. Reach around in front of the right thread, scissor grab the left thread, bring it around in front, and then it goes to the back. The index and thumb then pinch grab that other thread, and it stays a front thread. Work the next stitch on the next 2 back threads. Reach around in front of the first thread, scissor grab the second thread, it comes around and goes to the back. Pinch that other thread and bring it to the front. You may now work the rest of the row in Z interlinking. That means you pinch a thread from the back and you scissor a thread at the front. Pinch the back, scissor at the front, all the way across the row. Now at the end of the row, notice we have 2 threads together here at the back, and on the other side of those 2 S stitches we have 2 threads that are together at the front. Yes, this demarcates the change from Z to S, and then on the left from S to Z at the edge of the row. So now let's look again at that pattern. What will happen on the next row? The next row will have 3 S stitches. But notice the first one is the burgundy color. That's on 2 front threads. Then there's a plain S, and then a pink, the stitch on 2 back threads. How does that work? Here we go. We're starting the plait row, keeping our eye for where those 2 back threads are. This is the first stitch on the 2 back threads, yes. So this is the burgundy stitch. You notice this is not right. We have to do something different here. We're going to do this stitch on the 2 front threads. We reach over to scissor grab and then pinch. Now here we can do a normal S stitch, scissor and pinch. And this stitch, if we don't do anything special, see how that's not right up there? This is a stitch that has to be on 2 back threads. Reach over that first thread to get the second one there, and then pinch the first one. That's the 3rd S stitch, and now we do Z, that is pinch scissor. Now, after several rows, you can see the design developing here and the mirror image at the bottom, the Z on a field of S. When we want to diminish the size of the diamond, what do? Looking at the pattern, you can see the transition stitches in burgundy and pink. Those transition stitches are now dashes instead of slanty lines. They get worked in Z. So how does that work? Here we go. We're starting on a plait row, but you could also do this on an overplait row. This is the first of the 2 stitches at the back, so the next one is a transition stitch. And we're going to work it in Z. So I reach behind to pinch and then scissor the front thread. Then we work the next several stitches in S, scissor and pinch, and then we get over here to the other transition stitch. This one has to be worked on 2 back threads. So these 2 back threads, I'm going to reach behind the first thread and I pinch that second back thread and then scissor. And now we're back to the Z stitch, which is pinch, scissor, all the way to the end of the row. So let's see what happens on the next row. This is an overplate row. We're working in Z until we get to that place where there are the 2 threads at the back. The first one is involved in a normal Z stitch, and then we have to have a transition stitch. The 2 front threads work the next Z stitch, and then we work in S, which is scissor pinch, all the way across to the place where we need the next transition stitch. So here we need to work a stitch in Z on these 2 back threads. We reach behind the first thread to pinch the second thread and then scissor that one. Then it's pinch, scissor the rest of the row. Now looking again, you see the pattern. The diamond is indeed narrowing, and at the right of the S stitches there are 2 threads together at the back and 2 threads together at the front to the left of the S stitches. Now there's one more thing I need to warn you about. After the last S stitch, you would think you're back to all normal Z stitches, but looking at this pattern, there's something you need to know. There are 2 more transition stitches on the row following the very last S. What do I mean? Well, here, if you look, you can see that last row, there was a one last S stitch, and now I'm back to all Z's, right? Except that when I get here, this is a normal Z, and the next stitch has to be a Z stitch on 2 front threads, and then I need to work a Z stitch on these 2 back threads. And then I finish the row. And then we're finished. Now we're finished with this diamond design, and now we're back to normal Z interlinking. And you can see here at the bottom, there's a diamond down there in Z on S, and coming back up to the top, you see we have S on Z.